Welcome to Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube. Fan debates, live watch-alongs, post-match reactions, and all the Foxes banter you could ask for. Subscribe now and see the game through Blue Tinted Glasses.
Well then, Mahrez has made something of that. It's Mahrez! 2-0 to Leicester City!
Next to him, Anthony Canoca finds Wood should score! Wood West Canoca, yes! In!
Here comes Leicester again with Heskey and Ibbett! Oh, this is incredible!
Got Jamie Vardy with him. Jamie Vardy sets off.
Jamie Vardy!
Blue Tinted Glasses, the home of Leicester City talk on YouTube.
Good evening and welcome to Tuesday Night Tactics, and it's time for match analysis here on Blue Tinted Glasses. And I am joined to the Robert Huth to my Wes Morgan. It is, of course, the main man here at BCG. Good evening, Locks. How are we today?
Yeah, all good, mate. As one comment's already said, hot. It's very warm. And the football is making me quite, hot under the collar because of once again, with Leicester, the off the pitch stuff. I'm starting to get a bit of a twitchy ass with all these transfer rumours. So, yeah.
Well, we're going to get onto that right away. Let's just say good evening to us. Evening, Kuhnau. Hi to you, Alan. It's not just hot. It's got that humidity, hasn't it, when you hit August? That's the thing that kills you. You're going to be waking up in sweats. But as Locke said, probably the real reason we're going to be waking up in sweats. We're going to get to the analysis in a moment. But breaking news. There's John Rodkin. Well, ChatGPT hasn't done too well. In front of the King Power, everything must go. Rob Dorset. Talks me, Locks. Abdul Fatawu. He might be on his way.
Oh, man. This one scares me like no other. This would be an absolute disaster. A disaster if Abdul Fatawu was to leave Leicester City this summer. Look, I think with Everton, I'm just worried. You know, I think that the initial demands, as we now have heard from Rob, it's going to be high. Leicester would not, all of the negative things we throw at the club, they would not just say to Everton, right, we want 30 million for Abdul Fatawu. That wouldn't happen. But we've already seen with Mads Hermansen and Ndidi, the Ndidi one, even though it was a low price, I want to just say his release clause was only 9 million and we didn't even get that for him. Hermansen we've let go for 15 to 18, whatever the fee really is. We've already seen Cody go on a cheap, which we know is good business because we just needed him gone. But it just shows me that the club are open to offers, low offers. They're open to low offers this summer because of clearly the financial situation at the club. So despite Rob reporting that Everton are unwilling to meet Leicester's demands, some people will say this is naive of me to say nil. I've just said it in the group chat, but there should be no demands. There should be no demands. Off the table, Abdul Fatawu is not leaving Leicester City this summer. And if I don't think he's the type of player to push for a move, but if there is an inkling in him that thinking, yeah, okay, I'd be open to a move, sit down with him, gentleman's agreement like we've had in the past with players. Next summer, mate, if you want to go, we'll let you go. This summer, you cannot go. Bilal is leaving. We've lost Jamie Vardy. We've not brought anybody in. Abdul Fatawu has to stay. And if he doesn't stay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I don't know what to say if he went, mate, honestly.
Well, he wouldn't be the only one because I think for everyone at the club, all the fans, Fatawu represents almost like a last hope on the pitch. We might have better players in the future, but right now, his personality, his character, we've seen already what he could do in pre-season. He is that player that gets the crowd on their feet and gets us all behind the team. I actually don't think he's our most important player. I actually think selling Bilal is actually might be more crippling, but we kind of deal with it. But just what it represents, it'd always be like selling Mahrez at his peak. We sold Mahrez when the time was right. We didn't just let him go right away after winning the title. But you're right. The fact that they haven't just said, no, he's absolutely and categorically not for sale. But I mean, let's be honest, look, the club doesn't say anything. This is the thing that I keep saying this. I've said this to you guys for a while now. Lack of communication. We don't know how much the financial implications are. Rob Dorsett himself kept saying it's going to be a tough summer for Leicester. Maybe what he's hinting at is the fact that like they are just going to sell anyone. So I put everything must go here. They're going to sell anyone that they possibly can do. They're that hard up. And I didn't put it here, but the club statement talking about how, we're going to make sure that we have a rebuild with a youthful dynamic that represents really what I was saying between the lines is that we're going to be playing the academy prospects because we've got to sell everyone else.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I mean, I'm logged into the Insta Banana. Yeah. Can I just say that comment from Quacks? I went to call you Doc because I said the word Quacks. Genuinely, you're going to call me stupid. If Everton somehow said, here's 70 million, I would still not accept it. I'm sorry, because we will not be able to replace Abdul Fatawu whilst we're in the Championship. We will not get anybody close to Abdul Fatawu's quality in the Championship. Now, I know, Anil, you're saying that Bilal more important, but I actually do think Abdul is our best player. I do think he is our best player.
I went from for player of the season, so you don't need to convince me. I do think what Ray's putting here, though, is probably like, I don't think Abdul will kick up a fuss. I think he will know the fact that he was, we signed him permanently and he got injured. He probably will, I think, owe us a season. I don't think he will mind that. I think after that, if we're still in the Championship, he's absolutely gone. But you never know.
And we don't know what sell on. I was going to say, no, we don't know what sell on Lisbon have got. Like, and we know that they let him go.
Yeah.
But if you're going to you'd think, okay, we don't think this guy's too good, but he could be good. So let's stick a 20%. You just don't know, right? So, yeah, I just feel like, what you just said is bang on, that he's kind of the last hope for us. Like, we're looking at Fatawu thinking, this is the only player, once Bilal goes, this is the only player like in our squad who's going to excite us other than Monga, of course. It's just, it would be the most depressing way to end the window if something like this happens. And I honestly don't think fans will stand for it. If we let him go and didn't spend at least 40 million, 30 million, which we wouldn't, I think we'd be in trouble. I think if you take Bilal and Abdul out of the team, the talk of us getting top two, potentially even with the deduction, that's gone completely. And I want to even say, I feel like the
playoffs,
the blow mentally to the fans and the team, losing them two players, I think that could even spell curtains for the playoffs if you lose both of them. If you lose both of them, honestly, I think it's that bad for us if it happened.
Yeah, no, I think. Well, when is the window closing? I think it wasn't closing until September the 1st, but there was something like
2
it was going to
weeks
end
on Friday, I think.
Okay, yeah, there is something there. Yeah. I just got to say, Abdul is the face of HMS Pistol League. Indeed, he is. All right. Anyway, we're going to come back to transfers near the end. There'll be one or two more topics we talk about, but let's get on to the analysis. So, first game of the season is complete. It was a bit of a tough one, but we did beat Sheffield Wednesday 2-1. We made hard work of it in the end, but we got that win. Very reminiscent, I think, to that Coventry game in Enzo's first stay here. Now, first up, I just want to say, and I think we all should do this, massive respect to Sheffield Wednesday. Like, for however bad it is at our club, and we just said we might lose all of our star players, have a points deduction, and all the hope would be gone. But for these guys, it's even worse, right? They have an owner that's stuck there that isn't going to sell, almost certainly going to get relegated, got transfer embargo, real problems. So massive respect to all the fans that turned up. I think they conducted themselves with amazing sort of grace and passion, all that sort of stuff. Everyone who went to the ground said they were cheering the whole way. So, yeah, just want to say that everyone from Leicester, we're behind you, Sheffield Wednesday. We can put rivalries to one side when it comes to matters like this because, we've been in dark days ourselves, haven't we? And, just to kind of like show how much of a massive sort of uphill battle it was for them and why you got to say that they had a really good go at it is look at this in terms of squad value. So they've hardly got any players left. So, this is almost like, us playing a League One team, or League Two, maybe not League Two. League Two would be worse, even less. But yeah, you can just see just what a massive difference it was. And I think that you have to say for that reason alone, they did amazing. Yeah, £13 million squad. And I'm not even sure how they got to 13 million, to be honest with you. But some of their players were quite impressive, you got to say, and give them a hand. But all right, I'm just going to give you the team length. We won't talk about too much because we're going to do some analysis, but this is how we started up against Sheffield Wednesday. It was pretty much the same team that played against Fiorentina, except there was one change. James Justin came in for Hamza Chowdhury at right back. That meant that Skip kept his place, Boubakary Samari kept his place, Bilal El Khannouss, is it his last appearance for Leicester? We're not sure, but he was there. But that meant for the first time in an actual competitive game, we got to see Steffi Mavididi, Abdul Fatawu, and Bilal El Khannouss all in the same team. Uncle Ayi was up top wearing a number 9 shirt. Luke Thomas, Yannick Vestergaard also in the team. Stolarczyk obviously there in goal. For Sheffield Wednesday, something that surprised me is even though they have got a lot of troubles, their actual starting 11 was not too bad and was pretty similar to what they were playing last season. So they had Max Lowe, who has been linked with Leicester. You got obviously Barry Bannon, who's their captain. Obviously, he got red carded. Pierce Charles, who was brilliant on the day. I think he was their best player. Nathaniel Chalobah. Kadamatri's son was even in the team. Jan Valery, ex-Southampton. So they had a decent starting lineup. And they made, I think, a much better go of it because pre-match, a lot of us were predicting 4-0, 5-0, 4-1s. And obviously, we only beat them 2-1. So fair play to them. Here are the match stats. We're going to come back to them in the end. But you can see that in the end, it was pretty one-sided. And it wasn't just because of the man sent off, because the man wasn't sent off until the 76th minute. But you can see we had 75% possession, 2.54 goals. XG, 6 big chances and 27 total shots. And just so you guys know, this is actually the most amount of shots and big chances we've had in any game since we beat Southampton 9-0 away at St Mary's a couple of seasons ago. So even better than anything that we saw under Enzo. Yes, they were down to 10 men, but it actually shows you that despite the fact that this game felt pretty underwhelming, and I think we were all underwhelmed, we actually really went for it. And I think I'll ask you about that in a minute, Locke, because that is definitely tell me about it now, because that is actually quite a big difference. We've said that pre-season, and it made me laugh. Like, we were doing a watch along, and you and Luke said to me, goes, "Oh, I'm not sure about this Marti ball. It's so much more stressful than Enzo, but it's got that excitement factor to it."
Yeah, of course. Yeah. In hindsight, I think it's more exciting, which should improve atmospheres as well in the stadium, as end-to-end games and exciting games does. It is nerve-wracking because, as you saw, we went 1-0 down for starters, but I think that was more down to defensive errors, to be honest with you. We could have defended that goal a lot better. But then even when we were 1-0 down or when we were, 1-1, we were getting hit on the counter quite a bit. And teams that are better than Sheffield Wednesday will score goals from it. And we've said this all along since Marti came in. We will. I think we'll score more goals as long as we keep our fucking best players, but I think we'll concede more as well, and that's just the price you pay for a more exciting, dynamic style of football. So a throttle ball, if you want to call it that. So, it's there's going to be a lot of nervy games. I think close games that could go either way. As the game goes on or early on. I think there's still a massive issue at the club with regards to mentality and starting games slowly. That's something that isn't Marti's fault. That's something that's built into these players. I said it on a stream the other day, but half these players weren't just here for the last relegation. They were here for the championship winning season, and they were also here for the first relegation. So, we've had this issue for quite some years now that our players seem to start slowing games and. But the main thing is that we came back, and that's what you want to see from a team. At the start of the season, you want to see the signs of fight and that they're able to come back from a poor start, and that's what happened. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting you mentioned a slow start, because you're bang on. I didn't cover it in today's analysis, but we actually had kickoff, but we lost the ball almost immediately. Wednesday had a corner within, I think, 60 seconds. And for the first 5 minutes, we actually couldn't even get out of our own half. It was pretty crazy. So they were the ones that started fast, despite being massively the underdogs. But we did turn it around. I think at the end of the day, the fact that we did get a win in the end is what you're going to need. You need to grind out points in this division, and we did grind it out in the end. Okay, so we're going to have a few things on tonight's show. So we've got Professor Marti. So what's Professor Marti got for us today? We're going to talk about how Wednesday caused us problems. I think that's important because we're going to see other teams trying to use the same sort of tactics against us. And they did a lot of things that were quite clever. We're going to have to watch out for. We're going to talk about some poor performers. I think a lot of you can guess who they're going to be. They will be talked about then. Then we're going to talk about what I think was, in my opinion, actually the most encouraging thing about the game was Marti's halftime tweak. I think that's the real encouragement. That as a manager, there's only a few things he could do, but he did do some great things that changed the game, and that's what got us that win. And then we're going to talk about some star performers too. So let's go with the first point, and that's how Wednesday causes problems. So let's look at the tactics. So first thing was set pieces and second contact. So this is the sort of thing you're going to do as an underdog team. You can pretty much expect it. So they had, I don't know who took the throws. Is it Barry Madden? No, because Barry Madden is here. Whoever was taking the throws had a rocket of a long throw on them. Yeah. They were able to essentially make it a corner, very Rory Delap-esque. And what they were basically doing is gambling on winning the second contact and trying to create a shot from it. And so this is early on. Throwing comes in, gets dealt with by Leicester. So to be fair, we actually in the end did deal defensively with set pieces pretty well, but it did cause us some problems. This one then drops to Chalobah. Chalobah has a shot, and this is a warning of things to come because actually it hits the post and comes off the upright. And when we see in the replay, look at that finger, Jakub Stolacek, move over, Mads. That was a crucial finger he got on it. They didn't get that finger on it. That would have been a goal. But the warning signs were there. And as you're saying here, the first 5 minutes were atrocious. And this is when it was all going on. So that was the first thing. And then we said then second contact. So the other thing that I want to give a lot of respect to Wednesday for is that they didn't just come to park the bus, right? They did only have 25% possession, but they made chances, right? And I think them being 1-0 up at half time was probably maybe it should have been 1-1, but they would definitely deserve to get something. So here we can see Pierce Charles with a goal kick, and they decide to hit it long. Again, they're going to go now for second contact. So here's a 50-50 duel. They win the header, and it's going to come to Okoli. Now, what Okoli's trying to do here is he's trying to head it back down into Buba Samare to continue to play, but he's been harassed by Wednesday. But look how many players they've got around. So you can see this is something that they've worked on. If they win the flick and it flicks on, they're going to swarm with numbers to try and win that second contact. And from that, they're going to try and spring an attack. And in this case, they do manage to spring the attack. And just look how many players they've got forward. So, usually when we attack, we're this season attacking with 6. Right, which is a difference. That's way up from Van Nistelrooy and Cooper, and even up from Enzo. Wednesday here are attacking with 7, right? So they were pretty much thinking, look, we're not going to get many chances, but when we do have a chance, we've absolutely got to go for it because we need to give ourselves something to protect. Because if we concede early, it's going to be a long afternoon for us. So they get that. The ball gets played develop, and look how many players they've got in the box here. Right, again, all 7 of them joining the box. It falls to Chalobah. Chalobah, of course, hadn't scored in 4 years. So what's going to happen? You know what's going to happen. He's going to put it into the back of the net. So fair enough. And Josh, we're going to come to Okoli because I think he had a pretty poor game. We can talk about overall. But it went in. Now, to be fair with this shot, you've got to say that it was probably going to be handled by Justin. And even Solskjaer looked like he was going to get to it. But it came off Skip for an unlucky deflection. Now, Skip did have a poor game, but I would say in this instance, I don't think you can blame the player. He's actually tried to throw himself at the ball to try and stop a goal. So, it's just one of those things. Sometimes it can happen, unfortunate deflection, but that was
If he didn't do it and it still went in, people would be saying, why hasn't he put his, you want players to put the body on the line. It's unfortunate. You can't blame Skip for that in any way.
Absolutely. So they got what they deserved. That was 1-0 up. The fans were going wild, and it looked like the shock was going to be on. But it did more than that as well. I think these are some things you should watch out for as well. So in this particular game, Wednesday did defend with a back 5. And why did they do that? So they did that for a few reasons, right? Up here, you can see that we've got James Justin, and we've talked about this spare man that we're going to have in Marti's system a lot, right? So that's going to give us an overload, and we can use that extra player to try and create another goal. But because they have 5 men back, you can see that the free man isn't free. They've got someone to cover it. You can even see they've got someone there to cover Abdul. You can also see, do you still remember like last season in the tactics, we showed Van Nistelrooy, that we'd have a compact back 4, but oftentimes it meant that the winger was completely free on the back post. So you can see they've actually gone for this almost like 4+1 shape. And we're going to see that again in a few slides time as well. So this is giving them really good coverage for all of our attacks. It's making us difficult. Now, that, of course, means that there's pros and cons, right? If you're defending with that many players, you're not going to have as much possession. So that's why we had so much, right? But it is going to make it difficult. And so what I think you'll see is that if I was if I was Preston's manager looking at this, I would be thinking this is the way to defend against Leicester because it was fairly effective. Another thing that they did was really well is they sort of put a cage around Fatawu. Now, we still came up with Fatawu being our man of the match, and I think he was brilliant. But again, the way that they dealt with him was pretty interesting. So here you got a man here on Fatawu, and I think that's Max Lowe. What they did is you got this man standing here, but he's almost playing like a dual role. So you can see that if the ball does go here to number 8, they can kind of compress on him with 3 people. But it also means that if Fatawu beats his man, which he did a number of times, you still got someone there to run in and at least slow them down. even if Fatawu beats both of your players, because he's more than good enough to do that, right? You're trying to just delay and make a cage. And this is sort of almost Mourinho versus Messi-esque. It's like, sometimes you can't just beat a player like that, but you can do enough to give yourself a bit more time and a bit more chance to deal with it. So that was quite clever. And it's something they did like a number of times. And then what we can see again here, is this sort of 4+1 shape. So what they were essentially doing is that when we were on attack on the wings, they would still have a compact back four. And you can see that is more like the typical 4-4-2 shape. But that extra man would pop out to get the winger. So it'd be the same with Mavididi. If it was Mavididi, this wing back would go out to the wing and you'd still have a compact back four. And this would be able to control it. So again, look, Fatawu, if he beats his man, there's still two men that he's got to potentially beat. And again, they'll be able to slow down the attacks. Now, what a lot of you mentioned during the game, and you're bang on, is that Skip, his sort of position that he was taking was not doing him any favours. So really, instead of being here, he needs to be here to give these players something to think about so he can play the quick 1-2. But I think the reason for this, and Marti spoke about this in the at half time, is that they weren't sure what Sheffield Wednesday were going to do. Were they going to defend with a 4 or were they going to defend with a 5? And if they were going to defend with a 5, it means that the positions that we needed to take up needs to be a bit different. So as I mentioned, Skip needs to be here and not here. But I think he's been told to go here, or, it might be muscle memory. So that caused us a few problems. But again, fair play, and watch out for that then against Preston and other games coming forward, because I want to give Wednesday respect as well. I wasn't a big fan of them sort of like wasting time, although I understand it. But I do think the way that what's his name, Hedison or whatever his name is, set them up. Yeah, he's a good coach. Like he was Danny Rowe's assistant, but he's got a promising future in my opinion, because in my opinion, I don't think he could have got more out of his Wednesday team than what he did, and that's the sign of a good coach, right? Yeah, Wednesday were class, and I think. Looking at them, I thought this team probably isn't going to finish bottom of the league. I think the squad might get to them, but in terms of how they played, they caused us problems. So anyway, everyone's talking about it. So let's get straight onto the poor performers, right? So we still had a lot of the ball. Why were we not really able to convert that into a goal? So let's start with the obvious one. He was hauled off at halftime. Everyone's been talking about Oliver Skip. As Duck says, Oliver Skip is a player who he wasn't expecting to be good, but needs to be good in the Championship. Still think we've got to give him a bit of time. But why was he bad? He was bad for a few reasons. I want to show one more reason in a moment. But just looking at that first half, you can see that he just wasn't involved at all, really. He's standing in the wrong positions. But here you can see as well that, key passes, 0. One long ball, it wasn't accurate. He lost possession 3 times. I think that was the big reason why he was kind of taken out. Ground duels, he did win 2 ground duels. It's not really much. 1 successful dribble, no aerial duel. To be honest with you, it looked like he was lost in that position, if I'm being honest. I think that's something that Marty's got to think about a lot, because we haven't seen anything really in Skip's career to suggest that he can be that kind of like box-to-box midfielder to be able to help out. And I'm not really sure he can play as a 6 either. Let's give him a bit more time. He was in the team of the season for Norwich a few years ago, and probably that's something I might do ahead of another analysis shows, try and figure out what they did to get the best out of him. But he didn't affect the game at all. And look, just 19 touches as well. For a midfielder, you've got to be running the game, right? You want to be getting on the ball. I play midfield locks. I'm terrible, but you know what? I still want to get on the ball and try and dictate play and make things happen. That's the sort of thing that we...
Timu Harry Winks.
Timu Harry Winks, exactly. As it turned out, the real Harry Winks is not too bad. Another player that was pretty bad was Caleb Okoli. Now, he was there at fault for the first goal too, but looking at his stats, again, I was pretty surprised by how bad he was. So, dribbled past once, 3 ground duels, he didn't win any. You'd thought in this Championship team that Okoli would be bullying teams. And against Fiorentina last week, he looked great. So I'm surprised and a bit worried, really, actually, that they managed to sort of undo him so much. 5 aerial duels, he only won 1. Again, he's got to be in the team for being a big physical unit. That's what we signed him for. Lost possession 3 times. And yeah, it was just a bit of a horror show for him. So yeah, I agree with you, Buzz. Okoli seemed a bit asleep, to be honest with you. Like the game was passing him by. So I think the change, was the right one. Whether a lot we like Faze or not, maybe it should have been Nelson. But I think if you look at those stats, he can't really argue with why he was hauled off. And I think he's got to work on that. Yeah, it's not his best game, but to be honest with you, this is a player that's supposed to be linked with Milan. Like this guy in the Championship, I'd be expecting him to be like 8, 9 out of 10 every week, 7 out of 10 at minimum. And you got to say his partner, Yannick Vestergaard, for all that we've cussed Yannick in the Premier League, and quite rightly so, he was outstanding, right? If anything, he should have scored 2 goals, not 1. So he's got to get with it, Caleb. This facial expression, Locks. if ever there was an expression to sum up the man, it is our boobs. Now, at first, we were thinking, you know what? A number 6, as like Booba in the championship, he'd walk the division. He'd be way too good, right? That's even what I thought, even though I've said to you that I don't really think there's a player in there. But this just came across as a player who just wasn't interested in playing at all. Okay, 1 key pass, but, 2 ground duels, didn't win any. 2 aerial duels, didn't win any. Lost possession 5 times. When you're in that number 6 position, when you're Timu Harry Winks, Locks, let me tell you, do not be giving the ball away, because even as Timu, you're going to be sold, right? You cannot be doing that, right? Christian, there you go. No one wants to be a boobs hater, but in this case, maybe you have to be. So that is something he's really got to work on, because that's 2 players who between them have cost us over £40 million. And this is the championship, right? Now, I think with Skip, he was trying, but he just wasn't very good. With Booba, if I'm being honest, it just felt like that expression shows like he wasn't trying. So
and that's the criticism that has been labelled at him since he arrived at the club. It's always the same thing, and initially you kind of want to bat it off and say, "Oh, it's not." Like I remember always saying the line, "He's not lazy. Maybe he struggles with the tempo. Maybe that's what it is." But it just feels now at this point, I think it's like when I watch him, it looks like he's had a few doobies before he's gone out there. Like he's just so. Yeah, it looks like he's had a few joints on the side of the side of the pitch before he gets out there. It's crazy. So, and sorry if you're going to bring it up, and I'm jumping ahead, but the moment in particular where you said it at the time when it happened, where he gave the ball away in the number 6 spot, and if it was a Premier League team, it's a goal. Yeah. It's a goal, and obviously Sheffield Wednesday they didn't really capitalise from it, but. That's why he struggled so much in the Premier League, and that's why our form was so his form was so inconsistent, was because he just dilly-dallies on the ball and he gives it away and suddenly it's a goal. And if he's going to continue doing that, then I don't know how you cut that out of a player, Anil, because again I'm going to say it, there is a player there, and I think technically he's very good. I think technically he's a very good footballer. I was on the phone to Kate earlier, Anil. Right, Listen to this. I put forward a very, very wild take.
Go on.
I want to know your thoughts on it.
Love the wild takes.
What about if Buba Samare replaced Bilal when he leaves in the number 10?
Not that crazy, Locks, because he started his career as a 10, believe it or not. Maybe.
I just feel like I feel like there is quality there, which is why you want to play him. Keep him as high as possible, so that the risk is lower, right? If the deeper he is, the higher risk you've got. So, and I think he is good in those tight spaces when he's looking forward, when he's looking towards goal. I think the problem with Booba is when he's looking towards our goal, and he does something ridiculous. So, you come from me in the chat. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think Samari in the 10 could work. But
to be fair, Locks, though, you're thinking like a manager, right? We're not playing Football Manager where you can just find that bargain for 500k that in every game turns into a football wonder kit, right? You have to make the most of what you can do, and you have to be constructive there. Conscious always comes up with the good comments. I sort of agree with him. He goes, we're in the transfer window, Skip and Boobs is our choice at 6. We are cooked. They have no football intelligence. Vestergaard would probably be the better choice. Could be right. Could be Ricardo. Could be Winks. I'll be honest. I think of the 2, I would try Skip at the 6 and Booba more as the one that goes box to box. And you know what? Your sort of idea of pushing him higher does make sense, right? Because you're saying, okay, the problem is the work rate, which has been mentioned here by Josh. Because, if you look at Bilal, the thing with Bilal is he probably had, by his standards, not even that good a game. But you look at his work rate and it's unmatched. But anyway, we've got to look at it because, right now, I understand what Marti's system is trying to do, but some of these players are letting him down. Hamza not getting a mention of 6? Maybe it could be him. I think, again, though, if you're talking about technical quality and be able to turn out of trouble, that's why people have that against him. Anyway, we'll move on. So that was in the first half. These players were pretty poor and they cost us getting some momentum. So Marti then at halftime, he obviously made a huge tweak, and fair play to him. I think if this was Van Nistelrooy, even if it was Maresca, Cooper the same, they wouldn't have made a substitution at halftime. But Marti did, and the substitution he made was the return of Harry Winks. And I've got this shot because this is the one that Luke was talking about, is that immediately him and Yannick, they were talking to one another like, hey, buddy, ain't seen you in a while. And they were talking about, okay, I'm gonna, like, you can see even with Vestergaard, he was like, okay, I trust Harry. I know I can play the ball to him.
Yeah.
And even Winks was like, I know what positions Vestergaard's going to take up, and we can work well with it. So these two combined really well. And what Winks did, you got to give him credit, is he dictated the game, right? And for someone who's normally guilty of a lot of sideways passing, here we go. So remember, Oliver Skipp had just 19 touches in this 45 minutes. Harry Winks, 49 touches.
Crazy.
41 out of 44 accurate passes. 2 key passes, shot off target, won a ground duel, and of course, he won the red card essentially, right? So he controlled the game. He dictated it. I think it's fair to say, right, I saw this on Fox's Talk earlier, and I totally agree with it, which is that Harry Winks, to get the best out of him, he needs to be playing for a possession-dominant team. If you've got all the possession and you need someone to control the game, keep it ticking over, keep threading those through balls, recycle the ball, keep it just pinging around like a metronome, he's your guy. If you're a team that doesn't have possession, you're up against it, you're losing the physical battles, he's going to look rubbish. And that's why he looked poor for us last season, right? But there is a reason why he has been linked with teams like Valencia, Brentford even. He can do a job if he can be bothered. And I think, to be fair to him, I thought that his career maybe at Leicester was over. It might still be gone. It might have been Winks' last game here as well, by the way. But he did, a job, and he showed why he's a much better player than Skipp and Soumare, 100%. So here he is early on in the second half, and he's back in his favoured position, turning to face the goal, scanning the pitch. How can I dictate the game? Who's on? How can I play the ball and cause trouble? Again, you see him standing here and see the sort of position that we're taking up. We can see that, again, dictating the play, getting involved quite early on, being the main playmaker for the team. Here again, what's Harry Winks famous for? What's the stat that I gave you last time in the championship? Most line-breaking passes, right? Harry Winks. So here you can see he's going to find Jordan Ayew. We're going to come onto Uncle Ayew a bit later on. He had a good game in the end. But he can see he's playing that line-breaking pass, missing out 3 of, the mid-block from Sheffield Wednesday to find Ayew. He's going to be able to turn and cause problems himself. And here really is what it comes down to. So at the start of the season, when we were talking about Marti, we talked about the 3 Ps, right? And funnily enough, the 1 P that Locks didn't get was positioning. But let's take a look at positioning, right? Because this is really important. So here's Ollie Skipp's touch map. You can see his average position. You can see he's sort of getting involved, but he's not really... It's a bit just all over the place, right? He's not really doing much, right? What can you really say for him? But I'm going to compare that now to Harry Winks and just look at the difference, right? And, you might say, oh, yeah, but Sheffield Wednesday had a man down. But Sheffield Wednesday were only a man down for that last sort of 10, 15 minutes. Even before then, I showed you the shots. Winks was getting into these positions. If you look at the actual average pitch position, it's more or less the same, but he was staying there the whole time, getting involved, forcing the ball through and causing trouble. And that was the big difference. So, that's what, if Skipp is going to play this sort of role, and to be honest with you, that's still what I think here. I think it's someone who's naive and not really understanding what they're supposed to do in their position, which could be taught, but he's going to have to learn quickly, right? Because this was definitely the master versus the student, and the master absolutely, outshone him there. And then what that allowed with Winks us to do is it allowed us to shift the defensive block. So I showed you this picture a minute ago, but what I want to ask you, Logs, is take a look at this picture and tell me who these players are. So who's this?
Sorry, I need to go on full screen. Give me a sec. There we go.
No, he's slacking.
Yannick Vestergaard.
That's Yannick Vestergaard. Now look, okay, so that's Yannick Vestergaard. What position is he playing there?
Centre forward.
Yeah. Who's that next to him?
Mr. James Justin.
It is James Justin. Who is that?
It's Jordan Ayew.
It is, and who's this?
Oh god, that's a tough one. I can't really see. Is it 48th minute? It must be Bilal.
It is Bilal. It's not after a free kick. It's actually in open play. The free kick did happen a bit earlier, but what I'm saying is, you can see is that we're trying to shift the defensive block around. We were doing this a lot, right? Yeah. So Jordan Ayew is the false 9. Look, see, players are kind of attracting. We're making spaces where there wasn't before. Winks kind of get there. So moving the block around and the changing of positions is one way that you can get like a back 5 to move, because that's what you're trying to do. That's what Enzo did as well. Is that Enzo, he wanted to control the game, wait for them to, implement their press, go for the pressing trigger, and then play in the spaces behind them. So we're trying to do like a similar thing here with Marti, and we're trying to use better balls. But in order to do that, you need to have someone who can find the passes through the lines to be able to find those players when they appear. That's something we did very well. Of course, as it turned out, the way that we got our goals in this game was through set pieces. So we've mentioned this guy a few times on this channel, but I think he deserves a lot of respect. So Andrew Hughes, again, if we look at this game, Wednesday tried to target us with direct throws, long throws on set pieces. We didn't concede from them. And when we were watching the game, I remember, again, Loxy said this, I can't remember the last time we looked like a threat from a set piece. We actually scored off 2 set pieces in this game in the end, not from open play.
I said it literally 20 seconds before. But in fairness, it wasn't a direct, right? They played it short, in fairness. And I did say, just play it short. And they did, so.
Yeah. Okay, it could be Shabby Khan as well. We'll bring him up as well. But here we go. So here's Bilal El Khannouss, and here's Yannick Vestergaard, who ends up scoring a goal. And from this position, this is probably what you're expecting, right? Like the high crossing, go for the big man, we'll find it. But instead, what he actually does is he plays it here along the ground, catching everyone unawares. Yeah. And then the ball manages to get his way through. Yannick actually is a really good finish. He gets it on his left foot, takes another touch with his right, and then falling over, still puts it into the top net of the goal to give us 1-1. So a really nice set piece. I'm just showing you how clever it is that, I think if we do get back to the Premier League, that's something we've got to make good, right? Somehow Brentford managed to stay up, right? Cheap goals that don't really require necessarily good players, but require good team organization is something that, is integral. And then that was for 1-0. And then eventually we got 1-1. This one was way more straightforward. So we've just got phased. But you can see we've got a little bit of Gareth Southgate's bust there. Do you remember the England bust in World Cup 2018? So you got Yannick and Wout Faes and Jordan Ayew and Patson Daka, who's on this time, all lining up. But in the end, it's Wout Faes, locks his all-time favourite Leicester player, gets on the ball, heads it in. And just for you, Locks, I thought I'd give you I think we talked to death about Wout Faes. We won't need to cover him anymore. But fair play. Look, we got it again off another set piece. And do you know what? In the end, for what was a stressful game, right? Unlike Southampton, who got their winner in the 96th minute, we got it in the 86th minute. And there was 9 minutes of injury time. So in the end, it was actually relatively comfortable. I think that, again, is a sign of a good team and also a good manager. Because I think another big thing that obviously changed the game is the red card, right? So here we can see second yellow. You can't really blame. He did get the ball, but he went through, he raked the back of someone's thigh. That's a definite yellow card. So it's got to be a red. Unfortunate for Sheffield Wednesday. At least they were committed to try and make the challenge. But it was a red. So off goes Barry Bannon. But look at this, right? This is why I think we have got a good manager. So 76-25, that's when this challenge happens. They obviously go through the bit of the shenanigans with the referee, and boom, 1 minute later, he puts on another striker. Now, maybe taking Fatawu off, I was a bit like, not sure about that. He would still look like one of our best players, but he wanted the energy. He wants to obviously protect Fatawu. But what that meant is that rather than taking Ayew off and putting on Daka, i.e. striker for striker, he went 2 strikers up there, right? Yep. Immediately, he knows they're a man down. They're going to park the bus. They're going to hang on for dear life. We need to attack. We need to attack them immediately. Not in 5 minutes, not in 10 minutes, not maybe put them on the end and see what happens. You've got to go for it, and you've got to go for it now. So I like that about Marti. And I think even if, he has not got as good a squad and things are harder for him, I do think the Leicester crowd will take to him for these reasons, because I think he'll give us more of a memorable time. I think ultimately football is about that emotion. So that was a big halftime tweak that he did, putting on Harry Winks, attacking in different spaces so that he could make that back five less effective against our attack, all right, and basically dictating play, shifting the block. So let's talk about some star performers then, people who played really well for us and who stood out. First and foremost, there's a reason why we started this stream with the Abdul alert. For whatever reason, he might have had the doozy as well, like Booba in these pictures. A lot of them look high AF. But look at his stats. So, 94% pass accuracy, 2 key passes, 2 shots on target, 7 out of 13 successful dribbles. Most players, they have like 3 or 4 successful dribbles in the game. If this is the same the last time in the championship. Fatawu, he can just beat his man. He has him on toast. He could do it in the Premier League. That's why this player for me. Do you know what, Locks? When you said 70 million, that is the number for me. That's why I think the club would not sell him unless it was worth a lot, because they know that this guy is probably going to be the next massive sale, as Riyad Mahrez was. Not just that.
I was going to say as well, Anil, like the whole thing with selling, what I was saying about a gentleman's agreement and all that. So if we stay down, he's gone anyway.
Yeah.
Right? If we stay down, he's gone. But if you go up, he'll probably still go, but you'll demand a bigger fee.
Yeah.
Naturally, because he's had another season in the Championship where he's going to score loads of goals and assists, and you're a Premier League club, so you can justify demanding more money. So, let's just say, I reckon, if we're being completely honest, this summer, just off the back of the ACL, Championship club, tied, with PSR, you would probably say 45 million quid. Right? No, I'm not saying that's what we should do. I'm not saying that's what the club are going to do, but I'm just saying, right, a fair valuation. In a year's time, after scoring 7 goals and getting 15 assists and promotion to the Premier League, that's, I think 80. I think 80. And you're not going to Everton either, mate. You're going to Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? Enzo's coming back in for you. Yeah.
Reunited with Papa Enzo. That's probably what he's deserved. Well, it's not just that, right? So not only is he
Liverpool, Mo Salah replacement at Liverpool.
Oh, I mean, don't give him ideas. I mean, it makes me sad to think that he will eventually leave because he's you got to build a team around a player like this. But yeah, the thing is, he's not only so good on the attacking side, but look at that, 12 out of 20 ground duels won. So Abdul Fatawu won more ground duels than Caleb Okoli, Oliver Skip, Bouba Samari put together, and he's a winger. And he created more key passes than all of those players combined together, right? Unbelievable. Fouled 4 times, doesn't complain, gets up, cleared it twice, 1 interception, 1 tackle. Absolutely superb. A captain on the pitch, right? The funny thing is in the end, he didn't get even an assist or a goal, right? Maybe he even was guilty of going for a shot when he should have crossed it one time, right? But the threat, just the influence of him on the pitch, right, causes chaos. So unbelievable. He was brilliant for that kind of performance.
Can I just say one last thing in there?
Yeah.
Abdul Fatawu, I don't think there's not only not a player like him in the Championship, I don't think there is a player like Abdul Fatawu in the Premier League. I genuinely don't. I don't think there's anybody as dynamic, as explosive. There are explosive players. I mean, Adama Traore was explosive, but at the end of the day, you know what I mean? What did he do? I think Abdul Fatawu in a year's time, if he stayed, I think this guy could be the most sought after. I think he's different to Mo Salah. I think he's different to Mo Salah. He's a different player.
Different to Salah. I think he's different to Saka as well. For me, there is one player who's like him. The one that I think he's like is actually Jeremy Doku. And the reason I think he's like Jeremy Doku is because Jeremy Doku, if you look at him, he's the player that beats men one-on-one more than anyone else in the Premier League. Now, I don't think Doku's even that good, right? You can see that he's good at beating a man, but the end product isn't there. I don't think he's as good physically. I think the big thing is that season under Enzo has turned Abdul from like a promising kid into a man, in my opinion, because he's got that ability to both contribute on the defensive side, but also cause that attacking threat, which is really, really good. But that's more what I'd say. I do know that this season, a few teams have signed players who specifically have been signed for that ability to beat their man one-on-one in tight spaces. So let's see what happens. There could be. But I do know what you're saying there, Locks. And good question here from Fossab. Do you think Monga has more threat than Fatawu when 1v1? He might potentially do.
Not yet.
Well, I see what Fossab is coming from. I think if you look at his feet and his ability to shift left and right, I think he's actually even better than Fatawu at beating his man one-on-one. But I can see why you're shaking your head, Locks, because I think what Fatawu has that I think Monga haven't quite yet seen it is that explosive pace, right? So the thing is that Fatawu, when he beats his man, it's not just that he beats his man, but he's going to then get to that byline or get into goal so fast that he creates a scoring opportunity for it. And I remember James Lawrence Alcott, he did a show 2 years ago, and he said that Abdul Fatawu, if you look across Europe, for the amount of players that get the ball into the box in a dangerous area, Abdul Fatawu was in like the top 1% of any player in Europe, right? So that's what Monga needs to do. It's all good beating your man. And look, Monga's only 16, incredible player. He could get there, right? But it's your ability, once you've done that, to then make something of it. And I mentioned there Jeremy Doku, but I think that's his problem. Doku, I've seen him many times. He looks great, but why Doku isn't as good as Mahrez was for Leicester. Mahrez also had that for Leicester, right? He had that skill, but he could turn that skill into a goal-creating action, either an assist or a goal. So, yeah, unreal. So, look, we could wax lyrical, and yeah, if he gets sold, I mean, there will be riots on the street, in my opinion. But even though I think Abdul Fatawu deservedly won man of the match from the blue-tinted glasses family, join the player ratings at the end of every match, the funny thing is, at the time, I was a little bit disappointed with Bilal. But when I watched the game back again, I was just like, Jesus, he's so good. It's like, how does 7 out of 10 El Khannouss is still the best player in the division, right? So take a look at these ones, right? 4 key passes, 3 big chances created by himself, right? 2 assists, 1 shot on target. He should have scored that. 3 block shots, 3 out of 3 successful dribbles. Again, 4 out of 7 ground duels won. Again, winning more duels than Skip, than Booba, than Okoli. Right, 1 out of 2 aerial duels won and 3 interceptions. So the funny thing is, right, bang on, Bilal. He was everywhere on the pitch, attacking and defending. And it's not just that he oozes class, right? It's the fact that this guy, even though he's so good, he's way better than you or I will ever be, right? He probably works harder than you or I will ever do. And that is like the hardest thing to kind of, maybe even some players don't have it. The build around player, it should be a marquee signing. Why these Premier League teams have taken so long to realize that it's like, maybe that's what they needed. Because, the funny thing is Crystal Palace coming in for him. I said this to you before. When Crystal Palace come in for a championship player, it's because they fucking know, pardon my French, right? They knew it with Eze. They knew it with Elise. They knew it with Wharton. If they're going in for Khannouss, that is an £80 million player there, right? And look, Elise has gone to Bayern Munich. Eze is going to go at Arsenal, Spurs, or something like that. Wharton's probably going to go to Liverpool. This guy is going to the top. It's just a matter of when. And I don't even think he needs to score goals. Ozil didn't score that many goals. If he did score the goals, then he's crazy. But the guy is just a machine.
Let me ask a question, right? I'm going to do what I love to do best on shows, and I'm going to give you a shit sandwich, or I'm going to give you two pieces of shit, and I'm going to ask you to pick between them. So, everybody in the chat as well, let us know. What do you think would be more detrimental to our season, selling Bilal or selling Abdul? Who would you rather keep right now? If the club were in a predicament where they needed to raise some money, and they know we'll sell one but not the other, who would you rather us sell this summer?
I'm going to give you head and heart. So my heart says that I want us to keep Fatawu because I think, is the excitement, the joy of football, the positivity that you get after a bad week at work. You want to see him play, makes you want to go to the ground and stand up on your feet. But if I'm looking in my head, I would say that Bilal is the more important player. That Bilal is the player that would carry you to promotion because he just controls the game. And I think the big thing with Fatawu is more that with Fatawu, I think we could replace him even without signing someone. It wouldn't be anywhere near as good, but it would mean that Monga gets moved to the right or McAteer comes in on the right. And you wouldn't be as good, but you would be okay. If El Khannouss goes out of the team, you have to sign somebody. Do you really want Bouba Samara as a 10? Listen to what you're saying. Skip as a 10. Ricardo as a 10. It'll probably be Ayew as a 10. But yeah, I agree with this. Bilal is the glue for me, but Fatawu is in my heart. Like I say, it would be horrible to sell both of them, and I think Bilal is the one that's going to go. But I'm looking at the way that the team plays, and him and Winks together ran this game, and that's why we won it.
So that's what I was going to say as well. But don't you think that Bilal is the easier profile to replace? I think it would be, but that's just.
Who do you replace him
I can't
with?
name. Yeah, I was going to say I can't name one off the top of my head. I mean, trust me, by the way, because we've had people recommend to us. If either of them go a nil, we will do another scouting report. We will do a scouting report to replace that individual, right? So if Bilal leaves over the next few days, we will do a scouting report show on who we think should replace him with realistic options. But I don't know. Yeah, I suppose you're right on what Wolf says, and you said it as well, Anil, that, yes, you can find a creative player, but will you find a creative player who works as hard as Bilal do? Will you? You're probably right. It'll be very difficult to find that. So, that's what I was thinking. What Josh said. I think
he's a creative number 10 with the work rate of Kin and Dewsbury Hall. That's a very hard one to get. He works even harder than James Maddison, even though he's not quite as good technical. Now we have been linked obviously with that Yari Vasharan who's come up. Ex-FM Wonder kid, but it's going to be a downgrade. And I guess the point I'm making is that, like, of all the players that we have in the team, it's like if we came up in the Premier League next year, again, he's your marquee player. You know what I mean? He's It's going to be him. And in this game, by the way, when we were down, did you see the effort that Bilal was putting in to get us back into the game and try and winning it? He done exactly what Kiernan Dewsbury Hall did for us 2 seasons ago against Coventry when he said, screw this, I'll win the game myself then. And he did, right? He did it in a different way. Dewsbury Hall scored the goals, Bilal created them, but he still did it. So, you know, maybe we can replace him, but I don't think so. I think that this was actually low-key a great signing. We said it even last year, was the one that we were most excited for. And look, he didn't quite do it in the Premier League. I think it's fair to say that, but you do need time to settle into a new country and league. And yeah, I just think I'm just saying, I feel the stats do back it up. Look, don't get me wrong, Fatawu will probably be the one that scores more goals.
I would have said as well, like, one thing to remember as well is that, you know, as long as we're in the Championship, anyone we get to replace Bilal, anybody we get to replace Fatawu will be a downgrade, because you're not bringing in a player of that quality whilst you're in the Championship. But to caveat that, the club can surprise you, because Harvey Barnes left, and I know Mavadidi's a downgrade, but look at what Mavididi did in the Championship.
He did replace him. He did replace him. And to be fair, you didn't know who Martin Glover's got in his book. Like, the thing is,
Bilal replaced Kiernan. Bilal replaced Kiernan.
Big time. And the one thing you know that Martin Glover did not recommend Oliver Skipp. You know he didn't recommend Bobby Reed. You know he didn't recommend Jordan Ayew. Maybe he did, but I refuse to believe it. We know that Enzo said that he was the one that found Fatawu because he was actually a right wing back under Amorim, and he turned him into a winger. And, you know, he also got Mads. Kay Leverkoli, that's a bit of a miss for me. But I think, I don't know, if we could find someone, fair enough. But I'll just say I'm not confident.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's enough Bilal glazing, even though that probably could have been his last appearance. If not, Preston will be his last game. I'll be honest with you, I don't think he'll be in the squad.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we just say that this could be the last time we speak about Bilal on the analysis? I mean, yeah, what a play. It started slow. Obviously, he was fighting for game time with Facundo, who started the season, you know, really well under Cooper. You know, he was the best player in the team under Cooper, him and Hermanson, of course. But then the second half of the season under Ruud, obviously Bilal found his feet, and he was by far the best player in the second half of the season for Leicester City. And he's obviously continued that, you know, into the first game of this season. You know, it's a shame. It's going to be sad to lose him. I think we were trying to convince ourselves for a very short period of time that he was going to stay, but it's looking increasingly likely now that he is going to go. And all I'll say is at least it's not 21 million. At least it's 30, right? Which we're now hearing from Percy and Radio Leicester. At least it's 30. But then again, we've also seen today that, well, if we do sell him for 30, we're probably not even going to spend any of that on a player. Yeah. We need to sell even more to bring players in. So it's utterly heartbreaking. But, you know, we're used to it now, mate. We're used to it. But Leicester City, even when we're winning things, we lose players. I just think this guy's going to go, to the top, mate, if I'm honest with you. I could see him in Newcastle for a long term. If he goes to Palace, I could see that being a short-term thing, a stepping stone, if you like. But I don't blame him, mate, because if he did go to Palace, he's got Conference League, and he's not a threat of relegation, at least in my opinion. If he goes to Newcastle, Champions League football, are they in Champions League this year? I think they are, right? Yeah. So they've got Champions League football, and again, no risk of relegation. Great players around him, even if Isak doesn't, if he goes. So I think there's so many options out there. What I would caveat it with, Anil, is I would say that if the only two clubs in for him were still Sunderland and Leeds, I do think he would be staying at Leicester this summer. The fact now that you've got Spurs, Palace, and Newcastle, I think it's all but certain. So thank you, Bilal, for the... Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Bilal, for the very short memories. And I will be...
Yeah, and respect.
I've got no complaints. I've got no complaints about Bilal, how he's handled himself in Nil. I think he's handled himself very well. He's getting stuck in on the first game of the season when he could easily pull out to try and secure a move. All the best, Bilal, if you go, mate. All the best.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to steal this from Josh. Tell you what, if you like Bilal El Khannouss as a player, like our stream, go on, give us that. He deserves it. Make it the salute to Bilal. And let's hope that we're wrong, but it does seem like the club has already accepted he's going to go. All right, let's move on to another player. Now, of course, very controversial that Vardy's number 9 went to Jordan Ayew this next season. But overall, Unk still got it. Uncle Ayew had a really good game. So you can see he was playing, again, that false 9 role, right? So he wasn't just playing as a strike, he was dropping in to create. And you see, again, 3 key passes, same actually as El Khannouss. No, 1 less than El Khannouss. 2 big chances created, 5 shots on target, 2 out of 2 successful dribbles, including that outrageous one down the right-hand side where he burst past a couple of players and crossed in for Daka. 4 out of 8 ground duels won, so he was doing the dirty work. 2 out of 2 aerial duels won, 1 clearance, 1 tackle. He was a bit of a miss in the first half, but the second half, he was absolutely fantastic. I said this to you a while ago that in that false 9 position, he's made for it and he would do well for it. And you can see here, like, the key chances, that's obviously Vardy will be the one that scores the goals, but Ayew is going to be creative. He could even end up in that 10 position for that reason. But again, look at his touch map here, right? It's all over the place. Of course, you can see he's even taking the set pieces, but you can see he drift out to the left, to the right, to the middle, would get involved. Like, he sometimes drops all the way in deep here to do the work and pass it around. So compare that to Oliver Skip that I showed you in the first half, right? This is a guy that, despite his age, is really putting in a massive shift and causing a lot of trouble. And he will continue to be great. He was your pick potentially for the player of the season. And, if we end up selling the other 2, he is going to be probably by default. But yes, he's really doing the work. And I think he was unlucky not to score. Maybe that's the one thing. He was a bit greedy on the shots, but created a lot of chances. And I mean, that's why I've made this. Unk still got it. All hail King Ayew. I think he's going to end up being a good player for us. So, just quickly, what I didn't do in any of this is I didn't really show you all the fantastic chances that we created. So I wanted to come back to that again, just at the end, and just show you some shots quickly. So, like I said, despite the fact that this might have felt like a real kind of underwhelming game, right? We created so many chances. And honestly, when you look back at it, right, it's insane that we only scored 2. We should have at least doubled that number, in my opinion, even the XG is a bit low. But here's some of the chances that we had in the first, in the game. So this is the first half. This was Luke Thomas inverting into that number 8 position. You can see Skips here in the other number 10 position. And he has a shot. He tested the keeper there. It was a good effort as well. Good effort from Luke Thomas, who had a decent game overall. Actually, at first, didn't think he did well. But if you look back at it, he was all right. Here's Abdul Fatawu. Here's another chance. A really good effort that he had. Only went narrowly wide. Still in the first half. Here was Bilal. This one was a lot closer than it thought. It almost skimmed the post, just slightly wide. And again, that's maybe what he needs to work on to really get that big move back. Look at that. If he'd have got it on target, that is an easy goal that he would have scored there. So very well constructed move. We had this one in the first half as well. Okoli, this is again off the set pieces ground, heads it back into Vestergaard. He should have scored, right? He just headed it up rather than down. I think, didn't jump high enough, funnily enough, for someone as tall as him. This was the second half. This was Mavadidi. This was after a fantastic run where he beat a couple of players, got it onto his left foot. He was falling over, so it's hard to get a shot away, but he still tested the keeper in this position. Tons of great moves during this match. This was Luke Thomas again. Ball comes to him. He's a free man, has a kind of wild lash at it, but if he kept it down, could have scored there. This was that move. This was the end of Jordan Ayew running down the wing. He puts in a fantastic cross from here, finds his striking partner, Patson Daka. Daka gets a firm header to it. And I think it's a bit unfair to say he should score. He does get some power in it. Maybe he needs to put it a little bit more to the side, but still, Charles. And I don't know about you, but I thought that was the chance that gone when he missed it. But look how many chances we had created. And here, right at the end, was Bilal. He should have got this goal to wrap up his time at Leicester, maybe, and even the game. So just look at that. There were so many chances we created in this match. And what I love about it is this one as well. We're 2-1 up, right? We could just see out the game. But instead, look how many people we've got in the box that are looking to attack. Look at Ayew even, right? He's gambling on the second ball. Again, Unk still got it. He doesn't need to get, he could easily just be hanging around and thinking giving up. So really good stuff.
Did I read somewhere this weekend that was the most chances we've created in a game since the 9-0?
You read that from me. Yeah, you read that from me. So that is the most shots of any team in the championship this weekend was us. It wasn't the highest XG, to be fair. Southampton had even higher XG than us. Connor Cody kept them out. But yeah, that's the most shots we've had. We had more shots than any game under Enzo. for a long time. So yeah, I think the difference is that Marty said it after the game, says we just weren't clinical enough. And here I've got this, I'm a big fan of this is the match momentum. And you could say, the red card changed the game. And while it's true that after the red card, we had even more attacking momentum. Look at it. That whole second half was pretty much the entire direction shift from Marty. That was like, guys, what was that first half? We're here to win the game, right? Stop fucking about. Because he's here, though, as you mentioned, we didn't start the game well. Sheffield Wednesday started on top. You can still see that the goal was slightly against the run of play, but that was perhaps the disappointment of that first half. We didn't really have control of the game. We didn't have control of the game because Samari and Skip in that midfield just couldn't glue it together. Too many misplaced passes. We couldn't get that fluency going. Bringing Winks back into the team sorted all that out. When Ricardo and Winks were in the team, will be well, Bilal might not be, but we should still be a lot better. But that was really good to see. And like I say, that I think shows you the potential we've got. So I'm giving you my thoughts. You can give me yours as well. But I would say this. We made hard work of the game, but in the end, the quality shone through and we won. Poor passing and performances from some players made us look bad in the first half. And that is the issue of this system. I've said this to you before, that when you play this kind of like very Johan Cruyff Barcelona way, because you're going for this fast one-touch football, if you have people that wear in their donkey shoes, you're going to give the ball away a lot, right? And it's going to break your attacks down before they even get started. That was maybe a bit of a difference with Enzo ball, is that like, because it was a bit slower and more patient, you had a bit more time to take those touches and make those passes. Whereas in this one, like I say, there will be just some games where we're going to lose because the team just cannot pass the ball 5 yards to one another. And if a lot of people are playing that way, you're in trouble. Winks changed the game, but good on the manager for acting fast. And also he made 5 subs in the end. For me, I think in modern football, if you don't make 5 subs, you're a pussy-o. Sorry. Why are you not doing it? Get the energy levels replaced, even if you're chasing it, right? Because pressing makes chances, right? Or pressing actually helps you defend, even if you're ahead. Some of us watched that Birmingham game against Ipswich. They scored a goal and then their energy went out of them. And they didn't make the changes to keep the pressure up. Doesn't matter if the players coming on aren't as good. That energy is important. We got into better positions in that second half to drag Wednesday around. That made spaces for us to score. Marti immediately went 2 up top when Bannon was sent off to ramp up the pressure. I like that. And the second half was all of us. The goals will come in, red card or not. Yeah, it might still have been a draw, but, I think even when we were watching the game, by the time it got to like the 80th minute, I just thought to myself, if this game goes on for half an hour, we win the game. It's just the question is, can we score enough goals between now and the end of the match? And in the end, by the 86th minute, we had won the game. How about you? What did you make of the game overall?
Yeah, look, it was a disheartening first half. And can I just say, I'm going to use this opportunity to do one thing. Now, I might sound like a hypocrite here because what's the opposite of condemn? What's the opposite of condemn, Anil?
Praise? Although
Praise. I don't know. I approve of the booing of Wout Faes. Okay. I approve of the booing of Wout Faes. But look, I weren't in the stadium, of course. We were on the watch along. However, if any of you here are watching, are one of the people that booed the team off the pitch at half time, hang your head in shame. Honestly, hang your head in shame. How on earth can you do that? We're 1-0 down, yes, granted, but it's 45 minutes into a brand new manager's reign, campaign as manager. You might say, we weren't booing the team. We weren't booing the manager. We were booing the team. It doesn't matter. It's the manager's team. He made a mistake for not picking Winks from the start. That's all hindsight, right? As armchair managers can say. He did exactly what he needed to do at halftime. He changed the game. I'm not saying anybody here is. I'm just saying if you are one of those people that booed the team off the pitch 45 minutes into the new game, it's shocking. It's shocking because if we'd just gone on a 10-game, under Marti, right? If it had started really, really poorly, and I don't class a 1-0 down at halftime as really, really poorly. I'm saying if we'd lost the first 5 games of the season and we're getting battered and outplayed, I'd understand it a little bit. But we've not. We've had a great performance against Fiorentina in the last pre-season game. We're seeing Marti use a lot of youth. Okay, we're seeing that they're on the bench and all of that, and Monga's coming on in the league. I just don't know how people can boo after 45 minutes, to be honest. Boo the board, boo Top, boo Rodkin, boo Wout Faes when he comes on and acts like a prick, but do not boo the team off after 45 minutes under a new manager. And again, this is quite right. Like, if you're 3-0 down at half time, like, they fucking deserve a bit of, do you know what I mean? A bit of whatever. But just at half time, yeah, I don't get it. Anyway, with regards to the game, disheartening first half, but it was, like we said, Marti, brownie points to him for the halftime change, which completely changed the game. It's exciting to see the facts we've just discussed about seeing the most chances or whatever it is since the Southampton game. That should tell you everything you need to know about Marti Ball. Clinical enough? No. That, if I was Marti, I'd be getting on the blower and saying to Top or Rodkin, I need a goal scorer in this team, because although Jordan Ayew is going to be good in this league, doing the things that he's done so far, he's not the greatest of goal scorers, and we need a goal scorer up that end of the pitch. Especially if Bilal goes, we need more creativity as well. So there's a lot of work to be done in the last 2.5 weeks of the window. We're not a finished product technically that we were under Renzo in August, right? Because everything had been wrapped up pretty quickly. There's a lot of work on this squad that's still going to take place, and I think from that game, even though it was a narrow 2-1 win and we came from behind, I think there's so much signs of encouragement, and I'm excited.
It's good to see. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. And say here, I mean, basically, concerns then. This is the concern. We've already talked about it. I mean, it's an interesting one. You've been saying this all stream, King Leicester. I sort of see where you're coming from. Ayew is a 10, Mavididi a striker. I don't know if it'd be Mavididi. I think you'd probably still keep him at left wing, but you could play Patson in front of him. But I guess you want Monger in the left position. Could be, but I mean, I do think that you might see that, because I think Ayew was playing in that position last year quite a few times. I mean, Bobby Reed still's coming to the team. I don't think he'll be in the in the 10 position, but maybe he could play instead of where Skip was playing. Don't know, something to think about.
We'll Although my mate sent me a photo last night in Nil of he started a Football Manager save with the updated leagues and teams in the Championship with Leicester, and Fatawu got injured in game 1, so we had to play Bobby Reed, and he scored 10 goals in 10 games. So there we go.
Wow,
it could happen.
I mean, well, we'll see, because I mean, it's interesting though. We thought that Skip and Sumare would not be that good, but we've kind of glossed over it, but it was Yannick and Wout Faes, who we know are good in the Championship, that showed their class in this game, right? Harry Winks, again, bad in the Premier League, but Championship, legend in the Championship. But yeah, just moving on, then we'll wrap up the show. A few of you have been asking. So yeah, we're doing a watch-along tomorrow. We're up against Huddersfield. Should be fun. What are you expecting for this game? Because obviously, Cup run is utterly unimportant to us this season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what team he puts out. There are two ways of looking at it. That team I could see happening absolutely. I think Hamza's definitely going to start. I think he was unfortunate not to have started on Sunday. I think he probably should have started on Sunday, if I'm honest. I think he deserved to start after what he'd shown, not only at Sheffield United but then at Leicester in pre-season. Unless he just had a knock or something like that and he wasn't 100% ready to go. Yeah, I would say, I mean, if I just run through an 11 quickly, I would say Begovic, I would say Hamza, I would say Ben Nelson, I would probably say Akoli, and the reason I say Akoli is because I don't think he's going to start. I think it's going to be Wout and Yannick next weekend, which is crazy. So I'm going to say Nelson and Akoli. I'm going to say, I want to say Woyo. Sorry, I want to say Aluko. It could be either of them. I'm going to say Aluko.
Yeah.
Then I would go with Oliver Skip again because I don't think he's going to start the next one. Next to him, Lewis Page, potentially. Yeah. And then the number 10 is probably going to be Will Alves. The right winger is going to be Casey McAteer. The left winger is... Look, I want to say Monger. It'll be interesting to see if he does start the 16-year-old against Huddersfield in the Cup. He should do, in my opinion, so I'm going to put him there. And the striker in Il, we all know who it's going to be. It's going to be Patson Daka. So, yeah, that would be my 11.
Yeah, it's funny, Kuno, you're laughing saying you've seen someone predict a 2-1 Huddersfield win, but I think I would have them to win as well because I think we're going to play more of an experimental team. I suppose what was more likely, though, is that like if we're losing with 20 or 30 minutes to go, then Marti would just do like a bit like what Cooper did against, was it Walsall or something, where he just put on all the firepower on in the end. So we could see something like that. we shall see. But that will be an interesting game for us to do there. Yeah, there is a rumor that Daka might be on his way out as well. So Valencia, we'll see that.
Forgot about that.
One page there. But look, the next big one is on Saturday. Here we are up against Preston. Great memories of this game the last time we went to Deepdale, right? Because that's where we won the title and we had the 4-0 win. It was a great performance. Preston, some people have them to go down this season. I'm one of them. We'll see if that's true or not. But that should be an interesting one. And yeah, look, I mean, great opportunity to make it 2 out of 2. Not really sure what to make of it. You know, we had the beating of them easily the last couple of times we played them. But it's first away game in this season. What do you think we'll see for this game? Will Bilal still be here?
Well, yeah, good point. Because his release clause obviously expires, is it Friday? Although they only have to trigger that. But if they trigger it, you'd think he would be left out of the team.
Yeah.
You know, for all that stuff. Even though he is the character to, even if he was 24 hours away from a move, I think he'd be fully committed to Leicester. I just don't think it's fair on the lad. If we all know he's going, just you know, this is what I said about Hermanson in the last pre-season game. They knew he was leaving. I would have started Jakob. Started Jakob that game. But yeah, if Bilal's still here, Anil, I think it will be the starting 11 that started the second half against Sheffield Wednesday. So basically, the starting 11 plus Winks over Skip. That's what I think it would be if Bilal stays. If he doesn't stay, mate, I've got no clue who's going to play in the north. Will Alves, are you going to start Will Alves? I don't think Will Alves is... I don't want to be harsh on the lad, but yeah, it could be anything. So we'll wait.
Alves is going to play tomorrow, but he's not going to play in this game. Yeah.
So who do you think will if Bilal's gone?
I think he'll play Ayew as a 10 and Daka up top. If Daka's also got... You say that, but for the Championship... I keep saying
as a 10, maybe?
Who?
Casey is a 10, maybe?
Maybe. He was tried there. We did show him against the Fiorentina game. He played there briefly. I actually think Ricardo is a 10. Is
Oh, now we're talking.
Because I'm just thinking in my head, right, that the thing is that, like, what I'm looking for is a creative player who's intelligent, right? And that's actually why, you know, like, I know Manny's always like, you know, play Monga there. But what I don't see from Monga yet is I don't see that understanding of how to thread the eye through the ball, you know, the ball through the eye of a needle. He might have it for all I know, and I've just not seen it, which is fair enough. I'll put my hands up, right? But I see that he can beat a man, and he's got a powerful shot on him. So for me, he looks like he can definitely play winger right now. In that position, what we saw with Bilal is he didn't score, right? But he was finding the passes. He's intelligent. He can play in tight spaces. I know Ricardo can do that, right? He has sort of played. Maybe he could do it, but I think they'd probably go Ayew. Like I said, then who'd you put in front of him? But I honestly think that, like, at this level, like, to be honest with you, you know, I know that we keep saying it, but Ayew at this level is going to be one of the best players in the division, right? That I think is just going to be a fact. So I wouldn't really have... I think actually the problem is if you move him back, then who plays in front of him? Because Daka's got clown shoes. They won't do as good a job as him, in my opinion. So that's something to watch out for. But we could see what kind of happens there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to cross that bridge, but I've got a feeling that bridge is going to be crossed pretty soon. Yeah. And yeah, what a better chance to find that? Well, maybe he'd play the 10 against Huddersfield, right? That would be a better time to test it in a game that's less important. But I do get what you're saying. You're never going to know unless you try it out and find someone there. But okay, let's kind of leave it there. That's been the stream. Guys, if you don't mind, do give us a like, because obviously you put a lot of effort into making this one. So give some analysis. You know, we don't just want to give you the sort of 1 minute on match of the day or troll you like, you know, the second tier pod that, you know, is Leicester embarrassment. Screw those guys. So thank you for tuning in.
Let me just do one more shout, Anil. One more shout. I've just posted a link in the chat. So again, as we keep saying, this is the link to the Football Content Awards. Nominations end. I think it's I can't remember. I think it's Friday. I can't remember. Something like that. Even if you've already nominated BTG, you can do it as many times as you want. So if you can go into that link, put the channel details. If you enjoy watching BTG, nominate us for Best New Content Creator. Best New Content Creator. And as well, how can we forget, Neil? Today is the one year birthday of BTG.
I was going to say, yeah, makes a massive difference. How the time is flying away, you know. little bit less optimistic than I was a year ago, if I'm being honest with you, Locks. But if anything, at least we've had a very successful channel. So amazing job. Thanks for having me along. It was amazing. I've enjoyed every minute of it. There's a reason why we'll keep going as well. Yeah, and don't want to throw shade on other people, or do we really? But we overtook Leicester Fan TV as well. We did it the clean way without any pumping, shall we say. So that was always a good thing to do. But yeah, thanks for all your support, guys. We really appreciate it. And of course, drop in the comments as well, things that you want to see improved or changes and stuff like that. We're always listening. I think if there's one thing I would choose to improve, it'd be getting rid of some people at the club, to be honest with you. I think the stream's going all right.
Yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, big shout out to all of you. There's some regular faces who are here nearly every stream. I know, Josh, you're one of them. There's some new faces all the time. So yeah, thank you to all of you, because we have a long season ahead of it. We've got a long 2 weeks. Of course, we'll have a deadline day stream as well. That could be bloody painful. But yeah, long season ahead. So make sure you join us for it all. We will be live for every match day. So there we go.
Yeah. Anyway, that's in Blue Tinted Glasses. There won't be a Foxes Den tomorrow because there's a match. They're coming thick and fast. So you'll see you there for that. See you next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Massive thank you to today's sponsor, Match Bingo. Over 200 grand has been paid out to players so far by taking sports betting, football and bingo and combining them into one amazing app. Make sure to get your bingo card for any Leicester City game in the upcoming season. Click that link in the description or via the QR code on screen.